Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. For the better part of the last 27 years, Backlash has been the WWE follow-up event after WrestleMania, a reaction to the events that happened at the Showcase of the Immortals, as well as a furthering of new storylines. This year is no exception, with a couple matches born out of Mania in the following week. But there's another backlash that's been brewing online that seems to be coming to a steady boil after a series of talent releases as well as creative choices and an ever-tightening grip on the wallet of WWE fans. What does it all mean? Damned if we know, but that's not going to stop us from talking about it in this episode 245, Backlash and Backlash. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is the man for whom backlash is an endearing term that he's given to the especially noxious gas he unleashes on his family after a tomahawk steak with garlic butter sauce. He has been my partner in Idiocy for over 2 decades and was legally counted as 50% ribeye in the most recent U.S. Census. I give you the man they called him.
Greetings and salutations, my friend. How are you?
You know, I'm doing all right. Doing all right for the shaking, man. How about you?
I am well. I'm doing well. I'm enjoying this. We're recording on the evening of May the 4th. So not that I did a whole lot Star Wars-ish. I worked from home, and that's kind of it. I, wore my AT-AT t-shirt. And
did you wear your Star Wars underoos today?
I did not wear Star Wars underoos. I do have my Grogu right here. So, which, he's got his eye on the title as well.
Do I have any Star Wars paraphernalia around here? I don't.
And if you watch our Week in Geek Wednesday episode, you'll see me try to do a bit of a homage to the Star Wars, the beginning of Star Wars, with the ship flying overhead. Although I was kind of coming in from the side because there's just no way to come overhead with where my camera is. So, that's what I had to do.
You need to get a little more production heavy, a little more into that.
I think I do. The thing I really want to do, and
what you need is a crane in your basement.
Well, I dropped the ball because this ship, the Razor Crest, has been fully constructed since February. I think before you came out. I think I got it done in early February. And but I have had I shouldn't say I've had zero time. Believe me, I've taken a number of naps. I could have come down and spend some time doing this, but I have yet to start wiring up.
Medicinal.
Oh, those naps were amazing. Felt like $1 million afterwards. Oh my God. But I have not started, wiring up the lights. I bought a whole lighting kit for the ship, and I just have not put the time in. So that would have been fun if, as an intro, I'd killed the lights so it was all dark and you just see, the ship flying by with.
That would have been cool.
That would have been very.
That would have been. Now that you say that you know what, that intro is dog shit.
So next May the 4th.
Next May
is.
The 4th. Who are you kidding? Who are you kidding, sir?
Hey, I set goals, my friend. I set goals, I'd say.
I have a better chance of becoming an actual Jedi before next May the 4th than you do of wiring that thing.
These aren't the championship belts you're looking for.
Exactly. Jeez.
Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, we got some doings going on in the land of WWE. This what are you shaking your head for?
Not all is well in the world.
No. This originally was just going to be a Backlash preview episode, and then over the weekend, as I awoke from my nap, all I could hear in the back of my mind as I'm reading these articles is, "It's a new day. Yes, it is." And oh, sweet Lord, it's a new day, all right, but just not the way I thought it was going to be. As I like to call it, the culling that started last week with the cut of I don't know, what was it, like 20 some odd superstars.
Well, I mean, let's not paint too broad a brush with superstars. There was a hefty amount of NXT, talent that was released there. There was maybe 8, maybe 10.
Yeah,
of like headlining, main roster talent sort of folks.
I mean, just because you don't invest in the product enough, doesn't mean they're not superstars, sir. So I'm kidding. Okay. I'm kidding.
All right.
I'm just teasing. But no, over the weekend, we were inundated with the news that the New Day, Xavier Woods and Kofi, are leaving WWE. They
weren't future endeavored. It was an agreed parting of ways.
Yes, agreed parting of ways. And then also kind of the sub headline to that is JC Mateo and Tonga Loa are also leaving WWE, which was a bit of a surprise because they were part of this, MFT group with Solo. And now it's a surprise, but it's not a surprise because they also were probably pretty much anyone other than Solo and Tama Tonga is kind of in the background. Even Tala Tonga, as tall as he is really not, lighting the world on fire with what he's doing and is not being, and quite honestly, let's start with them. So quite honestly, the folks in that group, JC Mateo, his name is Jeff Cobb. He had quite a following and really had made a name for himself internationally, New Japan and wrestling, in independent organizations. Really highly regarded, guy in terms of being a talent. AEW brought him in for a period of time. He's a big guy, rugged guy. I never really felt like WWE did anything for him. Like they brought him in, they put him in this group where Solo was the loudest voice,
the only voice.
Yeah, and never gave him a personality, never gave him an opportunity to speak, never gave, really the curse of that MFT group is none of those guys get really featured in any matches of significance. They fight, I'm sure there were, JC Mateo versus one of the Wyatts but what does that matter? You know what I mean? He's not making a run at the US title. He's not making a run at the heavyweight title or the WWE championship. Yes, they were pursuing the tag belts. And so, for him, I really feel like WWE did him a disservice. And maybe this is to his benefit to just leave at this point, because now he can go out and, again, hit the independents, maybe go to AEW for a more longer-term deal. I mean, that is the one suspicious thing is with AEW, like he came in, he was brought in for some high-profile matches, I think, with Kenny Omega. I think with, not with Moxley, but with, I'm trying to think who... Oh crap! I'm completely spacing out on who he fought. I'll have to look it up.
Eddie Kingston?
Maybe Eddie Kingston, yes. And then he kind of disappeared, but that's also kind of how AEW works. They kind of bring guys in from other organizations as from those organizations, they kind of, it's talking about knocking down or opening the forbidden door of, folks from other organizations coming in. So he might have come in on something like that and was never really given a long-term deal, but wondering if he can, find his way, find his voice, over there. And then Tonga Loa, I'm surprised, but not surprised. I mean, he and Tama Tonga, they were known as the Gorillas of Destiny in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They won a bunch of tag belts. They were mostly a tag team until the last couple of years when Tama Tonga started to develop a singles run. There and when they came over together, they did win the tag belts. I think 2024 into 2025. And then they summarily lost them. It wasn't to the Wyatts. To the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yes. Yep.
So for their title reign. So the two of them, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, did have an opportunity to be tag champs in WWE as a team that way. And then once that happened, they never really kind of came back together. And Tama Tonga is definitely getting groomed for a singles run, where he's, basically rebelling against Solo. He's probably going to break away. I've seen him do some press and some, especially going into WrestleMania. They had on WWE posted on YouTube some clips of Tama Tonga going and doing what was it? Went to an air base or an army base to let a serviceman know, like, basically he was being gifted a ticket to WrestleMania for him and his family or something like that, and doing things like I don't mean to say that superstars do, but it's like it just feels like they're trying to build him up as a singles act, and that he's going to make a run at some point once he splits from Solo. So it's not surprising that Tongaloa is exiting as well. But I don't know. Thoughts on JC Mateo and Tongaloa?
I mean, unfortunately, the Wyatt Six and MFTs really are like the cover band deal is really it. Like,
yeah,
because even though the MFTs were not, as obviously trying to cash in on legacy, which not cover band, the tribute bands, Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six definitely, paying homage to Bray Wyatt, but unfortunately that only goes so far unless you do something to then create a legacy of their own.
Mm-hmm.
You become a spin-off that can't escape the shadow of the show from which you were spun off. MFTs were kind of the same thing. They were a tribute version of the Bloodline. The problem is they were just a bad tribute band of the Bloodline. There was, as much as they tried to give Solo, they allowed him to have his personality, which has been great. Unfortunately, people had just had about 3 years worth of the Bloodline, and now you're giving them the Hydrox version of the Bloodline. And it's like, well, we've already seen this story, and we already saw Solo get his ass handed to him by the OG Bloodline. So why care? Like, the most compelling person who was part of Bloodline 2.0 was Jacob Fatu, and they spun him out of there as quickly as they could have. Now, why do I care? So it's not surprising me these two guys are gone. And apparently I think these two, it wasn't cuts either. It was another mutually, agreed thing, which to me is, we want to renegotiate your contract because you're not nearly drawing enough money for what we were paying you, because we thought this might be big business. Now we either want to renegotiate because of that, or we want to renegotiate as a way to get rid of you without having to fire you, sort of thing. I don't know how the contracts work, but it's not surprising. I find it interesting how many people, all of a sudden now have an opinion on the MFTs, when it seemed like online, a lot of people were just why are the MFTs and the Wyatt Six still around? They're not doing anything, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't affect me one way or the other, because it feels like these stables kind of needed to get thinned out anyways. They weren't doing anything with them. And now we have the Bloodline 1.0 on their comeback tour. So it's like these guys are even more of a friggin', polyp than before. It's like, now we have to kind of get rid of these guys, because unless you're going to fold them into the story somehow, now it's like, well, we now have the real. It's like an Eagles tribute band is playing across the street from the Eagles. And in this case, it's very apt, because much like the Big Lebowski, I effing hate the Eagles. So it's like, I don't really want to see either of these bands, but I especially don't want to see the cover band. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that surprising, and it doesn't really affect me at all. I mean, hey, hopefully the guys, do all right for themselves, but
yeah,
didn't really get this, like you said, they never had much of a personality to start with. So it's not a huge loss, really, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and like, I wasn't going to jump to the Wyatts right away, but you said something interesting about, and I'm referencing two articles from Cage Side Seats, which is a wrestling site I frequent daily. But yeah, like, so one comment that was made about, the some of the reasoning behind the cuts, so Cage Side Seats reports this. It's coming from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. But the Wyatts were cut. It was just felt that the group had run its course. Even at first, there were those who saw it as a short-term idea. In other words, WWE thought that that being a Bray Wyatt tribute act was a limited gimmick that didn't have long-term viability. Which is true to a point, but I think the common issue. So you had that part, which you had mentioned. The other part I think that plagued these two groups is, the only way you assert dominance is, not just by, winning and causing pain to your opponents, but it is also racking up the belts. And there wasn't going to be a world where, I mean, maybe you would have had Uncle Howdy / Bo Dallas challenge maybe for, the world championship on a one-off, sort of thing. But there was never going to be the thought that he was going to win that, like no one.
It wasn't the Four Horsemen. There's no main
No.
event guy.
No, there isn't. And
like even putting the U.S. title on Solo and or Uncle Howdy is like, it's a reach.
Well, it makes sense for Solo because Solo's the fighter. It doesn't make sense for Uncle Howdy because, like, what is he? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, my point is Solo has been devalued.
Okay,
because he's essentially the mouthpiece. He barely even wrestles these days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's not realistic for him to be aiming for any title. And that's the problem. Like, a faction that's centered around it's the Judgment Day,
mm-hmm.
and it's one of these deals. Like, who's the main event guy? There isn't one. Your main event guy is essentially the gal.
Yeah,
and it has been with the Judgment Day since they got rid of Edge and then Priest, because Priest was kind of supposed to be the main event guy, and then they realized, oh no, Rhea's the main guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main event guy. And unfortunately, that doesn't register, in the men's division. So, there's no Ric Flair. You've got discount Arn Anderson and who's his partner?
Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, you got discount Blanchard and Anderson.
Yeah,
but you ain't got no Ric Flair, and who's the other guy? My gosh.
Oh, so you had Ric Flair, you had Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and the Ole spot would always switch up with Sting or Sid Vicious or Lex Luger.
Yeah, but you got no main event and main event B or at least secondary belt title. Like, you got none of that. None of it. You just got tag guys, and that's not going to work. That's not a faction. That's a glorified tag team with some friends,
right?
And not even terribly good ones.
And there was definitely more mileage they could have gotten out of the MFTs with, again, if they had explored, Jeff Cobb as an individual and not just as a member of Solo's group. If they had explored, I kind of wish they had delved into the New Japan history with Tongaloa and Tama Tonga. When they first showed up, you had Jimmy and Jay say to Solo, there was a reason we didn't pull them in. And they never explained that. And I thought that was such a great line because it's like, there's something more sinister behind these guys. Not that they're Brock Lesnar and they're going to tear through you, when they come to the ring, but it was just, there was this haunting sort of sense of darkness that kind of followed the Tongans in a way. And, why, again, it goes back to creative, where I just feel like this is where creative has dropped the ball, where they had, this group that, I think unfortunately some of the talent gets packaged into these, these silos or they're put in these boxes, and they don't think about these individuals, especially when they're in a group, functioning outside of those boxes. And to me, it's like, this is where, but again, there's only so much TV time.
Mm-hmm.
They're also not on the road doing house shows the way they used to. Mm-hmm. Like, I read something today on Cage Side Seats where McIntyre talks about, like, he understands why they don't do house shows anymore. Like, economically, it doesn't make sense. And also, health wise too. He's like, people were getting hurt. You had guys that were crashing out sooner because of the wear and tear. So he's like, he doesn't mind that they don't do it. However, at the same time, he's like, when I know I'm wrestling in an event, I have to train my ass off, because guess what? It feels like I've been in a car wreck the next day, because I'm not doing it frequently. I'm not, getting the reps in the same way that I used to, 10 or 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I think that too also impacts the ability, for talent to show themselves and to show creative that they're more than what they are. Like, we talked last week, I think it was last week's episode when we were talking about the releases and stuff. And I did read a couple articles since we recorded last week that kind of confirmed, what I said, because I didn't want to make this blanket assumption that, all these folks from NXT who got cut were just lazy and stuff. But there is an aspect of, folks, there's an expiration date. Like the clock starts as soon as you sign your NXT contract. There's a clock that starts.
Yeah.
And I think last night on LFG, I didn't watch the show. I saw a post on X that mentioned this, but Shawn Michaels talked to a guy who I had seen in seasons 1 and 2, and in season 3, he says to him, there's really not a place for you in NXT. And there comes a point where we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to invest the time and money into someone knowing that they're not going to make the roster? And so this guy ended up getting shifted over into AAA. They thought maybe he would have an opportunity over there, but for now, there just wasn't a path for him. And that's what I mean. Like, I think some people get caught up in being a part of the company, and it's like they get comfortable. And almost what's the term for being comfortable? Sometimes you get complacent. And I think that possibly is something that can plague the talent, because they think, okay, I've made it. I want to take it easy. I don't want to, rattle too many cages. And that's what's hard. That's where I feel like wrestling as a whole is very hypocritical, because you hear about, well, these guys are, you got to pound and you have to push, and you have to do the things like Punk and others had done to fight their way to the top. And then you read stories about how some guys do that, and they end up pissing off management, and they either job them out or they release them. And so it's like, well, what the hell is it then? You got guys who try. So anyways, I've been rambling. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's both, because first and foremost, you got to have the talent. You have to have the talent, and you have to have the talent in the ring. You also have to have the talent on the mic. You have to be someone who stands out in order to rattle the cages, because you have to have an inherent value, so that when you piss someone off, they're willing to be pissed off, but still go, I don't like this guy, but he's good for business.
Right.
Or they just piss me off, but man, they're really good. So let me figure this out.
Yep.
First and foremost, if you're going to rattle cages, but also you have to be tactical about when you're going to do that, because everyone gives Cody now crap because he's like, oh, he's a company man, this and that and the other. There's plenty of times that I think if you ask any of these folks, that you just have to swallow your pride and go, yes, sir.
Yep.
Because it's your job, and there is no job security.
Yeah.
There really is not. And that goes to the other aspect of some of these parting of ways and some of the talent, is that, all of a sudden fans are like, I can't believe that they would do this to this person. It's like, dude, do you know anything about the history of wrestling? Like, it used to be you had your run, and then you would thank you very much, and you move on to the next territory. Well, that's not a thing anymore. But it's not like just because you made WWE, like you now have a job for life.
Yeah.
It doesn't entitle you to that. And very few people, that's how it works. Like, normally you go somewhere else, or something happens or whatever. Like, there's very few people at the top of the mountain, and there ain't that much room at the top of the mountain. Somebody usually got to leave in order for you to get a spot there,
And going back to that one guy in LFG that got sent to AAA, something to me that I'm always surprised when I was watching that show, and and I didn't know after season 1 if some of the same talent were going to be in season 2. I thought it would be a whole new set of 16, but no, they brought back people, who were high performers but didn't win the contest. And the thing that blew me away is, and especially this guy, because this guy had some, he's from New Orleans, so he had some sort of Cajun gimmick thing, and I'm just looking at this like, this is not going to play. This is fertile ground. This is your canvas to do whatever you want to do. Like, I think the trainers would have been more than happy to help, whoever he was assigned to. I think he was with Undertaker in season 2. Like, Taker would have been on top. Like, I need a total gimmick, like not a refresh. I need a total gimmick reboot. Here's what I'm going to be. And like, that's the part that blows my mind, is like the people who went through season 1 and 2 and even coming into 3 that don't change their gimmick. And I'm sitting here like, you've lost essentially 2 seasons. Why would you not change your gimmick and try something different? And like, this is the fertile ground that you're in right now to figure out who you are as a character. So why are you marrying yourself to one persona and one concept when you could try several and see which one locks in with the crowd and then run with that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's the part of, and you know, again, I'm probably missing maybe some processes and ways they do stuff, and maybe there's a reason for it. But it is odd to me because if you think about where you are in LFG, which is like just getting your foot in the door in NXT, and then you go to NXT, and then you go to main roster, it becomes exponentially harder to make that change each step of the way you go, because now you are this character, and you are, you know, it's not like someone can show up to NXT and then 1-2 months later, after the gimmick hasn't worked, all of a sudden switch gears to be some totally different gimmick.
Yeah.
You just don't see that happen. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just,
then,
no, I was just going to say, I just think, and again, I need to be careful because I don't want to make assumptions, but I do think in some cases you see talent who just, I'm here, at some point I'll get my shot. I'm going to enjoy this, you know, and that's fair. You know, not everyone, I'm never going to be in WWE as a talent, you know, so I don't know what that's like, but it does inform, you know, I know sometimes people think on camera it's performative, but when you see someone like Punk cry because he's about to go on the main event, you said something very interesting, which is it's not a guarantee. Like, we in our heads think, you know, like back when I was 20 and I thought, well, maybe one, you know, maybe I might take a crack at this and try it. Never did. But like, it's not for certain. And there's so many, I'm sure there's so many stories out there of people who toiled on the indies and worked their hearts out, and it just didn't happen.
Yep.
And to your point, when you do find yourself in that spot, in that role, yeah, I get why they get emotional, because it's like there was no guarantee this was ever going to happen. And so anyways, points well made. So
yeah. And then you get into, you know, the New Day, and here's the thing, like, going with a gimmick refresh, you know, I mean, New Day, baby faces, you know, now forever. I mean, didn't they have a heel run back in the day?
They started them out as an overly annoying act. So like when the Dudleys came back to put them over, the Dudleys came back as baby faces, as the babyface legends that were coming back to fight against the obnoxious New Day. And that was where the Dudleys put them over and helped raise their stock through that feud.
So, but I mean, the New Day had been baby faces for a long time.
Yeah, and eventually they switched over, and
now then they turned him heel on Big E and all that. But the thing is, and this is why talent used to move around, because most of the time, like after a while, it's like you've worked with everybody, you've done everything, you've won all the belts, you've run through all the things that your character can do. You're a heel, then they turned you face, and you turn heel again. It's like there's only so many times you can kind of go through that before people are like, okay, we've pretty much seen everything that you can do. New Day have been around in WWE for an awfully long time. Kofi for even longer. And at a certain point, like, I get everybody, you know, saying like, oh, it's too bad and this and that, but then acting like, how dare they do this? You know, and this is the bellwether that everything is going down. It's like, dude, what like, nobody, people thought the New Day heel turn was okay, this could be something, but after a while you kind of realize, like, does anyone really want to see this? And that becomes the thing. Like, does anybody really want to see this? And it, in a way, it transcends creative at a certain level. You can try to, and I'm not saying like you can't creatively figure out a way to make it work, because you probably could.
Yeah.
But there's times, like with the whole Randy Orton thing, people did not want to boo Randy Orton. Like with the John Cena thing, people did not want to boo John Cena. Yeah. John Cena could come out there, he made a kid cry on live television, and people still wanted to cheer him.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you were going to do, you're not going to overwhelm the circumstances of he's retiring. We might not ever get to see John Cena in person again. All that, like, you're not going to overwhelm that with the creative. It doesn't matter what you do creatively. There is this other thing that keeps people from wanting to react the way you want to react. And it kind of was that way with New Day. I don't think people really wanted them as heels. No matter how obnoxious you make them, no matter how evil you make them, no matter what, no matter you're trying to have Kofi Kingston tempt Javon Evans into the New Day, like, nobody then wants like Road Warriors 2.0 or Road Warriors Legion of Doom 2000 or whatever, when you bring in so-and-so to replace, what was it, it was hawk or whatever.
Yeah.
It was an animal. I can't remember. But you're trying to mix it up with a new guy. Like, nobody wants that. It's probably time for them to go. And you know what? AEW will probably roll out the red carpet for them. They'll be the New Day with, like, you know, maybe it'll be NEU with like an umlaut or something. I don't know what they'll do. But go ahead, man. Like, the time has come. You've more than run your course. And that's why with some of this stuff, like some of it doesn't make sense. Like, to me, Motor City Machine Guns doesn't make sense because it feels like you didn't even try, and you're not trying with tag team wrestling anyways.
Well, we'll get to that in a moment because there's a very stark data point that we need to talk about on that front. But, you know, I think, you know, like what you just said about the New Day, I think one thing that really stands out is the fact that when they did the heel turn for a good month to 2 months, they were getting the Dom level heat. Like, they would try to talk on the mic and the crowd would just boo the crap out of them. And, you know, I do make this I do point the finger at creative for this, but it also points to the fact that I don't think they had a plan. I think they had a moment where they did something with Big E that had an impact, and it really, you know, pissed off the fan base, and the fan base let them know. And then they just kind of were, you know, and what I'm really surprised by with creative is you look at that and you don't capitalize on it by saying, look, the crowd absolutely hates them. Let's get the belts on them. Let's give them a long run where they have, you know, teams that are so close to beating them. And they were kind of doing that for the most part when the New Day had the belts, but have them carry themselves with a very, like there was a seriousness to what led up to the whole thing with Big E. Like there was this friction that was happening with Woods and with Kofi that felt very real and very uncomfortable. And then they had the whole thing with Big E, which was very uncomfortable and awkward because you're talking to a guy who nearly lost the ability to walk because of a botched wrestling move, and treating it like, you know, why couldn't you be like Stone Cold and come back? You know, like it's that cut and dry and black and white. And I think if they had maintained that seriousness and not tried to do the whole like New Day shtick, but as heels, where, you know, you have Xavier wearing the, you know, 2 mile long sombrero and all this crap, but they were just these, like, you know, guys who were just very kind of cool. We're too cool for school. You guys are not even on our level, you know, like use all that equity you built in the New Day brand to basically be a version of Ric Flair, but in tag team form, and build, you know, have them go on a run where eventually some team will beat them. Maybe it's the Motor City Machine Guns, maybe it's some other team, but think about the pop that they would get when that team finally, you know, beat them. Now, there's no plan because you covered it. WWE is not investing in tag teams. They're just not. And the data point I want to bring up, and, you know, I guess it's pertinent because we're talking about New Day, is, so I just looked this up as you were talking. With these roster cuts, the only tag teams in all of WWE right now, there are 1, 2, 3, there's 4 teams. That's how many men's tag teams there are right now. There's the Street Profits, there's the Creed Brothers, there's the War Raiders, and there's Damian Priest and R-Truth. That's it. That's all there is. So there is no tag division at this point. And God help us if we ever did a bracket where we were trying to do, you know, the 2020s. Well, we did, I think.
Well, I mean, technically, you still have the Usos.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. We have the Usos. Yes.
So we have 5
between two. Who has the belts right now? So
Truth and Damian have 1 set.
Oh, you have Theory and Logan Paul, but there's no like probably. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, the War Raiders, the Prophets, and the Creed Brothers are all meant to be teams. They're meant to be a unit. Whereas,
how do the Creed Brothers survive these cuts?
Honest to God, that's a great question. Actually,
did somebody just forget they were on the roster and skip them? Did they just get left off the spreadsheet? I think that's it.
I think you are going to cause me to have the Lewis Black, you know, vein start popping out of the left side of my skull here. The fact that they are still employed by WWE and the Motor City Machine Guns are not is absolutely unforgivable. Freaking forgivable.
I love how this is the point. This is where you're going to lose it. And you know what? It's okay, because I feel like this is me usually. Like the most minute little grievance, like a little speck of dirt gets in there and it causes this poo flavored pearl of just hatred. Give in to your hatred. What?
I mean, it is. It's just infuriating, but this is where we are. And the same thing with the women's side. All the women's tag teams are just these hodgepodges of singles wrestlers who are now paired up to compete in the division. You know, Lyra and Bailey, it's great they're together, but it's like, okay, but what happened to Schizo Bailey? And what happened to...
But the funny thing is they've got tenure.
Yeah.
Out of all these hodgepodge teams, they're the ones with probably the most history. And then Charlotte and Alexa are next.
Yeah. Yep. So
it's
I
crazy.
just
Crazy town.
Yeah, it's really for one thing sad, because you can tell that the company isn't and let's face it, I mean they're an entertainment company. They're looking to invest in creating moments and creating big box office, draws that will, bring a crowd in, much like they did in Vegas. Although they not on 42, but on 41 they did. And, so to your point about the New Day, I mean, yeah, they probably had run their course. I mean, it's not terribly surprising they left, but I think or that they came to an agreement. Now, the one thing I did read is they had just last year signed new contracts. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing that motivated this was TKO came and basically, and again, this is what I gathered from Cage Side Seats, is that TKO came and wanted to renegotiate for lower money because of their role in the company. Okay. A couple things are just kind of confusing to me. Like, for one, and I'm sure they have outs where they can do stuff like this, but when you make a contract with someone, you'd like to think the contract has to be honored for a period of time. It had barely even been a year since they signed them. Mm-hmm. And apparently this is something they did to a couple different talent as well. And they just decided to leave because they didn't agree with the changes. And I think the thing that's sad, maybe is the word, is just that I think, there's a part of the fandom who figured they would retire with WWE, become ambassadors, much like Cena is, and and Styles, and stay with the company and continue on in that way. And so I mean, I'm not broken up about it, but at the same time, I figured they were going to be WWE for life because of who they were and what they had accomplished. But sadly, TKO had other ideas.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is like, again, let's not forget, like, in professional sports, and let's lump professional wrestling in here as well, because it's the same sort of thing. There's plenty of times that teams go back to players and ask to renegotiate a salary.
Yeah.
It's not like this only happens in WWE. It doesn't happen in AEW because Tony Khan, and the only reason it doesn't happen in AEW is because Tony Khan doesn't care about spending money. He's got a never-ending faucet of money coming from Daddy that never runs out and never gets shut off, where he can have Danhausen on his roster, just for example, wrestle a few matches, and then just be off TV for like a year and a half. It was something. It was an obscene amount of time where he was just getting checks from AEW to do nothing. And you look at their roster, there's a ton of people who are doing that. There's a ton of people that they have on their roster. You mentioned someone, earlier where, like, yeah, they were on TV a little bit and then they just disappeared.
Yeah,
that's what they do. So I mean, that's the only reason that AEW doesn't participate in the same thing that most other sports teams do, where they're like, "Hey, we're not using you at all. We're going to have to negotiate this." Yeah. And then fans could say, "Well, it's their fault they're not using him." Yep, but guess who has most of the power in this situation? It's always going to be the ones who are cutting the checks. Always, unless you are a top player where you have, you're really good, and then you have the power to leverage it, in which case, go ahead and leverage all you want, man, because you are in that rarefied position where you actually have some of the stroke, and it's not just the guys who are running the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way, and it's just not as quite as pronounced because
Yeah.
there's salary caps and other things in wrestling. That's not a thing. So it's just that much different. And I feel like internet fans are just kind of getting riled up over some of this because they can. Being said, one of those internet fans does have a right to get riled because he has known more and forgotten more about professional wrestling than we ever will know. I'm going to link to this in the show notes. There's a bit from Uncle Corny and Brian Last on the state of the WWE, their own State of the Union address.
Oh boy.
The first third of this, I'll say,
like Mussolini.
the first third of it is kind of like a rehash of a lot of stuff that we've talked about. And they do get into the numbers of ads and stuff for Mania because it really is kind of talking a lot about Mania. Yeah. However, it starts getting into, and Corny does a great job of this because, again, Corny is a historian, if nothing else, going over how television changed professional wrestling and how it was television made the stars. So then you would go to the arena to see the shows, and then you would go and you'd pay to see they'd give you the matches on TV for free. So you would go to see the big event. And that was where you got the real events, because on TV they'd give you the squash matches and the quick matches and the promos and all that stuff, and then you go to the arena and you see the real thing. And then they got to they go further and further, and you get into cable, and then you get into pay-per-view. And now with the apps and everything, he's like, you're paying all this money, and yet you still have commercials, you still have this, you still have that. And Brian Last kind of chiming in, like, kind of what we used to do. Like, you'd have pay-per-view parties, and you'd have people over, and you'd order some pizzas, and you'd watch it. And he's like, there really wasn't a time when you could like run to use the bathroom or anything like that, because like it just was all going on. There were no commercials. FOMO. And I remember that. And now we're in this other thing. And it's interesting to hear Corny say this, but he did say at one point, and this is a pretty direct quote as far as I think I got it down. At the end of the day, Vince was more fan friendly. Now, keep in mind, that's because Vince was still very much running the house show mentality. Like, they were still running all the house shows. They were still going on. So he was very much trying to keep it affordable for families, because he knew he wanted, if he's going to, he had to, because if you're going to run 5-6 shows a week, you got to have ticket prices, because it's not scarcity. Now it's coming to your town to, it's not the Enormo Dome. It's the minor league hockey team 2 towns over that you can go to, and you can take the family, and it's $25-$30 for, reasonable seats. But you have to do that because you're not running the big town. So you have to make it somewhat affordable to get, the folks from the sticks in there. And then you get them, kind of in quantity. So in that way, yeah, Vince is more fan friendly. Like, you could go see WWE for a house show. Like I've said, a couple of years ago, WWE was in Portland, Maine. It's probably the last time they will ever run Portland, Maine, unless they tank and they change their house show model again, because they used to go there every year. If not, I think they were there twice a year sometimes. Ain't seen a show since. They do not come north of Boston anymore. The Garden is the smallest venue they're going to run in, this end of New England. I think they run like Providence or something too. But I mean, they're not running anything north of Boston because it's not big enough and it's not worth their while. So, and I'm not going to go down to Boston and pay. When I looked up Raw, like I told you, it was like more than what we paid to go to Elimination Chamber. I'm like, how? I'm just going to a Raw for like $700 for a seat to like in the 100 section? Are you fracking kidding me? Hell no. So there in that aspect, I could see it framed as more fan friendly, which again, considering how much Corny craps on Vince, that says a lot. But it's also like, objectively, I can see his point. Mm-hmm. The fact is, though, and I did appreciate this insight because I hadn't thought of it this way. Both him and Brian were basically kind of stating like that WWE currently where it is kind of the end result of Vince's mentality. Mm-hmm. Like, this is kind of the end result if you take that mentality and you play it out to its logical conclusion. Because like any salesman, they always sell you sell the sizzle, not the steak. So you sell the sizzle and then you give them the steak, but you're really selling that, oh, this thing, it's going to be so good and so good. And you convince them so much that even if the steak is kind of not that great, you sold them the sizzle. So it seems greater than what it actually was. Like when people go back and they think about the Attitude Era and, the pay-per-views then, it was just so much better. We used to get 10, 12 matches. Yeah. And like 5 or 6 of them were crap and like 2.5 minutes long. And you had the lame backstage thing, and you had that one hardcore match, which it might be fun. It could also just be an absolute disaster. And, we all think back on that fondly, but because it's the Attitude Era, it's the sizzle. Anything can happen. The idea now is, and I think it was, I think Corny said this, like now all you get is the sizzle and the smell, but they never give you the steak. They keep telling you where the steak will be next. And they tell you, oh, next time you'll get the steak, but you never get the steak. And I'm like, that kind of feels a bit like what we're in, especially when we get into like the card for this show. It very much feels like that. Like, and this is where I feel like some of the backlash is warranted. And I feel like if WWE wants to keep heading in this direction, they're already in trouble, I think, but they're getting to a point where it's like, well, why should I continue to invest in this? Because it's not even like I have to have a cable subscription and then a couple pay-per-views a year. Now you got to have like 5 different apps to catch all of the programming, unless you surf with the sharks, and in which case you're still missing out on some stuff because it's not all on Netflix.
So can I jump in and talk about what Corny said, because something I disagree with, or no, sorry, something I agree with what he said is, when it comes to the sizzle steak analogy is, I think there is steak that they serve. I think the problem is they sell a lot of sizzle and they don't invest in creating the steak. So we talked about this with WrestleMania 42. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. And yeah, there's some recency bias with this, but I would put that match up there with, as probably one of the best of the history of WrestleMania. I'm not going to say it is the best, but it is one of at least the top 5, if not the top 3.
I'd say top 10. I don't know that I put it in top 5, but that's just my point.
But and okay, so I'm curious, like that's a whole other show topic, because I'm kind of curious what the top 10 would be, because especially the fact that it was one of the matches, it's been one of the few main events where it has had a clean ending to it, and it was an ending that was going to piss off a lot of Punk fans, but it was an ending, but it was an ending. And True. It delivered on the sizzle. You got your steak. But think about the amount of investment that went into that. How many, it had to have been at least 8 to 10, 10 to 15 minute segments on Raw where the two of them tore into each other verbally.
Well, was it 10 was it that many?
Maybe I'm overstating it a little bit. I think it was probably, lengthwise, it was at least 10 to 15 minutes. I thought. I thought.
I'm arguing with it. It was a main event promo for like
maybe 7 to 8 times. 7 to 8 times, because it was an 8-week stretch from Elimination Chamber to WrestleMania.
Gosh,
believe it or not. So actually, no, it wasn't 8 weeks. It was about. It was 6 or 7. It was pretty close, right? You have the month of March.
Yeah.
And then you had 2 weeks into April. So it was about 6 or 7. And but there was a deep story there. Part of it was because of the characters and their history and the way they pulled on their history and their family and what is family and all this. Some of it was their history just of, Punk and the Shield and so forth. Now, not every wrestler has that. And I think that's where WWE is suffering, is they, I don't expect them to tell a deep, meaty story with every single character, but let's use, because we're about to talk about this, one of the matches in this event that we're going to preview is Danhausen and a mystery partner versus The Miz and Kit Wilson. There is more of a story going into this match with Danhausen's interaction with The Miz and Kit Wilson that to me makes, like, I as a fan anticipate this match now, because I know something entertaining is going to happen. I know that there's going to be, hopefully a surprise that is worthy of, the Danhausen character. Like maybe he finds, actually, tell me if this wouldn't be great because we'll talk about this in a moment, but wouldn't it be great if Obafemi shows up?
I have heard that rumor.
That would be fan freaking tastic. But setting that aside for our discussion in a moment here, that is because every week you see Danhausen, you see his interaction. First of all, the thing that has saved his character after we saw that fart of an introduction at Elimination Chamber in Chicago was every week, he has a bit with some character. He's establishing who he is. And we're talking about like a 30-second to 1 minute bit. But at least the fans are like, okay, this is a comedy character, and man, this guy's goofy and he's funny, and the comedy is on point. You're making fun of Pierce, you're making fun of Dom, you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, this guy is great. You start to understand him a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets into it with The Miz, and now that has grown into, him having, he's undefeated against, in one-on-one action against Kit Wilson and The Miz, and he's caught, you're cursed, and things are blowing up during the match and everything. Like, that to me is, why can't you do that for more of your characters? Why can't you do that for more of your matches? Is it because the characters themselves are weak and you can't build a story around it? I don't know. But WrestleMania 42, a lot of those matches, just to Corny's point, a lot of sizzle, no steak, because there just wasn't anything to it. And, I just, I like what they're doing with Reigns and Fatu going into this event, because I think they're I don't know how you felt, but they really did a hard right coming out of WrestleMania. There was very little talk by Punk and Reigns about each other.
Mm-hmm.
They moved on, and it was what it was. Punk says, I wasn't the better man that night. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's off on a thing with Rhodes. Reigns and Fatu, you've got, infighting in the family. So when I look at some of these other ones like Trick Williams and Sami Zayn, I haven't watched SmackDown enough to, part of this is on me. I don't watch the SmackDown product a whole lot. So I find those matches I have the least amount of investment, because I don't understand what built up to this. I get a general sense of it. Io Sky and Asuka. Okay, there's something there, but they also had to, they got rushed into that match because there was going to be a payoff with the third character who also got let go because, hey, she's going to move to Japan anyways. We're going to let her go. It's like, the hell is that? Like, give her her moment. They were building to this big babyface turn. So I just think they have a problem creatively. And we saw this on Unreal, where I think they honestly don't know what to do with some characters. Like, they're just lacking either imagination or the ability to tell a compelling story with characters that can get people excited and anticipating a match, so that when they see said match, they feel like what led up to it, what brought the sizzle, was paid off on. And most of the time they try to create sizzle. I don't even know if I call it sizzle. That 4-way women's tag match at WrestleMania, that was not a sizzle for me.
No.
So I don't know. I just, and the thing I disagree with is I will never agree that Vince was fan friendly. I get it with the house shows. I get the point he's trying to make. Vince was never fan friendly. Vince was about, stroking his own ego and controlling this world that he created. That's what he wanted.
Totally.
And he embarrassed. I mean, the one thing that I've so enjoyed about the Triple H era has been when they're in the hometown of certain wrestlers, those wrestlers are honored. Vince never did that. Vince always had to embarrass the person whose hometown they were in if they weren't a big star. JR, whoever it was, he always did something, to, especially if it was someone the fans liked and he just didn't see what the fans liked, and why don't you see things my way? I'm going to, keep, I like, and for a litany of other reasons that we haven't gotten into, the man is an absolute, I mean, yes, he may be a genius businessman and growing his company to the level that it's grown to, but an absolute, crap human being. And
absolutely. I think it's more of he's inadvertently fan friendly.
Well,
and when they're talking about that, it's like, well, the reason that you're pointing out to, like, well, he made it affordable. It's like, because let's be honest, he was running what it became an outdated business model.
Yeah.
Like, like even McIntyre says, I disagree in some ways with cutting house shows as far as they have.
Yeah.
However, I'm not the one out there getting my ass kicked.
Yep.
I'm not the one out there trying to make the the journey from town to town every night, and then now going, well, if it's if it's 2 nights in a row and then I get a couple days off and then this and that, like, I don't know how that works and how best to do that. Yeah, it'd be nice if they could, maybe they need to rebalance it and go, hey, maybe we need to put back in a few house shows. Maybe we do need to have guys out there wrestling, and maybe it, however you want to work it. But obviously, like, I think that this is the direction. Like, there's a reason why this seems to be working, but I think that now, of course, it's going far in the other direction of, well, now we can just soak people down. And you are getting to a point where people will turn this off. And that was another point that they made in the Uncle Corny bit is, it's not like if people get turned off at WWE, they're going to all of a sudden become AEW fans. And one of the exasperations Brian Last had was just the fact that Tony Khan is programming for such a niche audience that they're almost anti-growth at this point. Like, they're programming for their fans and their fans only, and it's not really an attractional fan base. Like, if you like AEW, you're already watching AEW. There's not a lot of people stumbling onto it and going, oh, okay. And even Corny was like, a lot of people who are WWE fans don't even really understand. I kind of disagree with this. I think a lot more of WWE fans are aware of AEW. I just don't think they're willing to swap over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like this is going to be a boon for AEW. It's just going to be a lot of people who are just like, well, I'm kind of done with this now, I guess. Just like how WWE didn't get all of the WCW fans after they bought them out. It's like, that was like a lot of those people going, well, F this, I'm not going to go watch that Northern style wrestling. I like my wrestling, So there you go. Tough luck, So it'll be interesting to see, but yeah, it's I don't know, man. I am not exactly chomping at the bit for this card. Okay. I feel like I am being set up for some serious disappointment here. But let us persevere and run this.
And as we get into this card, I think one of the, to use a Sayinghausen by our good friend Danhausen, this event is cursed because hot on the heels of WrestleMania, are you going to undo all the title changes you just did? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of what happens, like I think that's the problem with having a PLE, right? And again, I know it's a business. They're going to do it because they want to make their money. Fine, whatever. But let's just pretend we're talking, a little more strategically about this. Give it a month. Don't do an event, 3 weeks after the biggest event of your calendar where consequential things happen and then expect us all to go in and be let down or not surprised when everyone who holds a belt walks out with the belt. And maybe there's opportunity to forward some stories, and I think specifically about Rollins and Breaker. I think about Asuka and Io Sky, maybe Zayn and Williams, who knows. Probably there'll be some schmaz happening there because there's Carmelo Hayes. I always do that. But yeah, when you look at the World Heavyweight Championship match, I mean, when we took our break, I was just kind of, catching up on what happened on Raw and stuff like that. And, it sounds like the buildup with him and Fatu has been great. The problem is no one believes Fatu is going to beat Reigns, right? I mean, Reigns just beat Punk. Everyone's expecting him to go on some kind of title reign, at least through SummerSlam. So the drama is just kind of not there because it's like, yeah, they're doing a great, he's broken out the Tongan death grip. He's going all Haku on him. Great. That's awesome. Beat the crap out of Roman Reigns, but you're going to lose when it counts. So, like, I'm not going to be surprised Saturday when I watch this event and Reigns walks out with a belt. Not going to be surprised if people are booing it because fans are loving the idea of Fatu being champion. And are they going to pull the trigger? I don't think so. We're like barely a month out from WrestleMania.
Well, and here's the thing. You could do this event.
Yeah.
I got an idea, though. How about some of the belts, some of the titles, some of the people who were, and I'm just spitballing here, who were not on WrestleMania? How about we progress those stories here? How about, so we had an IC, how about the US title is the main event here? Or something that you can progress. It doesn't have to be again, like something that for sure. Well, they're not going to undo this. Maybe they will. But it's like there's plenty of other wrestlers who didn't get a shot, but we're hey, Io Sky and Asuka, the tag match, Seth Rollins and Breaker, even though we got Rollins. Okay, but then you got some other people who now are repeating. It's like there has got to be a way to get some other folks involved here. Like this Backlash, because it's supposed to be like, oh, this is the WrestleMania part 3, night 3 is like, and this is the payback. Like, you got to get away from that mentality. And I am not Twitter pated about this event. Let's just say that.
All right. Well, our typical scoring here is going to be we're going to have a winner. We're going to have a star rating. If you get the winner right, it's +2. If you get the star rating, it's +1, and it can only go in one direction. If we tie, there are no points. And then, of course, there's the highly vaunted side bets, which is where one can reap benefits and also weep for damaging their lead in the seasonal outing that is the idiocracy of this show. Shall we start at the bottom of the card and work our way up?
I was just going to suggest that, sir. Yes, as usual.
I thought you were going to suggest a bathroom break before we start doing this.
It's not going to help.
Okay. All right. So we have Danhausen and a mystery partner versus The Miz and Kit Wilson. We talked, just a moment ago about, the build up to this match and how it is a great example of a great mid-card build where I'm actually kind of interested in this match and I want to see how it plays out. Not because I think it's going to be a 5-star affair, but because I think it's going to be fun and entertaining. And it's going to be like, that was really cool. Danhausen once again gets one over on The Miz and Kit Wilson. Kind of a side bet here is real. Or like, do you want to treat this as a side bet or an extra thing we're going to guess in this match? Like who the mystery partner is going to be? No, should that be just built into this or what?
No, I think it's a side bet. I think
side bet. Okay. Yeah. All right. So what, sir, are you looking forward to in this match?
It being over.
Oh, come on now. I'm going to let Danhausen know so he can do the old, you are cursed.
I already feel like that happened. I feel like he was pointing to me when he did that at Elimination Chamber. This match, it's not like I'm anti Danhausen. This pisses me off. All right. Like, again, like you're going to have a tag team match on a pay-per-view or PLE or whatever we're calling these friggin' things now. It's not for one of the 2 men's tag belts you have. It's not for the women's tag belts. It's some schmuckety friggin' cobbled together. Like, and yeah, okay, there's a story here, but again, like, these are not real tag teams. Like, no. It's thrown together for this purpose. And if this were the case and you'd had a great tag match where the belts were defended and we have the next up and coming tag team or a story was furthered at Mania, I'd be okay with this. But how many pay-per-views has it been since the WWE either men's tag belts have been defended?
I know.
Same as like when I asked you, like, how long has it been since Raw's main event was an actual wrestling match and not a promo? You want a reason why maybe people are starting to get a little antsy and getting a little pissed off and getting a little, angsty about this. It's like the marquee says wrestling. It'd be nice if you occasionally had a match that was your main event. Doesn't have to be for the World Championship. Doesn't even have to be for the Intercontinental Championship. Just a match would be nice. And for me, like, this is offensive in that, like, even if this is a great entertaining segment, it's like this should be a friggin' tag match with 2 tag teams for the belts. There should be a feud going that you're trying to either further or blow off at a PLE. And instead we get this. We get we get Danhausen and the Box of Mysteries versus, I can't believe The Miz is still on the roster somehow, and Kit Wilson. Like, how are these two schmucks still on the roster and Motor City Machine Guns are out there, waiting for their 90 days to be up so they can go book indie gigs?
I think sadly this is the E in WWE coming through. This is
I
entertainment.
I feel like Dennis Leary, when he's doing his joke about it, John Lennon gets shot 6 times and Yoko Ono is standing right next to him and not one didn't even get grazed. Like, it's a terrible thing to say, but at the same time, like, it is one of those deals, like, in a just world, like, The Miz and Kit Wilson would be hosting, karaoke night at the WWE club, and Motor City Machine Guns would be at least in this spot and to be furthering themselves or something, like anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Danhausen in the mystery partner. Let's give this 2.5 stars. Just let's go right down the middle, because I'm going to be optimistic and say that this is not going to be god awful, but I think it's going to be.
Okay. Who do you think the mystery partner will be?
I'm going to go with the Boogeyman.
Okay.
No, it's not going to be the Boogeyman. Although that would be kind of funny. It's not going to be R-Truth, even though you would have some interaction there with the Miz, but I mean, I think it's either going to be Obafemi because, that open challenge kind of thing and all that. I'm trying to think of who else it could be. Like, is there somebody floating around that has been rumored, or that, like an indie kind of person? Like,
I'm not reading anything on the rumor sheets, so
I did see someone on Reddit suggest Matt Cardona because, like, he's available. I'm like, he
Could
is.
Could be.
So you know what? I'm gonna go. Put me down for Obafemi and Matt Cardona. And
No,
at best,
you pick one.
Oh, I only get one.
Oh, okay. So you want to do two, basically?
Well, no. Let's put the mystery town. No. You know what? Just stick with one. Let's go with one if that's what you had.
I can put two down, but you're going to nullify. You're going to be wrong. So I'm trying to help you. Help me. Help you.
Okay. And what do you have this one set as, sir? So I'll go with Obafemi.
Okay, you're going to go Obafemi. I'm also going to say Danhausen to keep up the win streak Hausen that's going on. And mystery. What's that?
The Streakhausen?
The Streakhausen. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be an average. Well, I mean, if Oba were to be the mystery partner, would it make the match? Probably not. So I'm gonna stick with you on 2.5 stars. Let's say this will be an average outing. I too think it's going to be Obafemi because the look on Miz's face will be worth the price of admission in and of itself. I think it'd be fun. Now, the one thing I will say is I get what you're saying about why are we not getting, a tag team championship match? Why are we not getting our tag teams involved? I think that is part of the problem we talked about earlier, which is I don't think they're, if they're looking at their talent as a business, if they're looking at or as a brand, they've not invested in a lot of tag teams. And because of that, it's extraordinarily hard to, like if they had a team that was like the Road Warriors, where just their mere presence would get the crowd fired up because they're about to see two ass kickers beat the crap out of someone, then I think we'd see something. But right now they don't have that, and they're not investing that way. I also think too, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Maybe this is just a whole other episode topic around tag teams or WWE's views of tag teams, but I'm also wondering if part of this too is if I'm a young person coming into the business and I see what the business is doing when it comes to tag teams and the fact that they're not investing heavily in them, what am I going to want to be? I'm going to want to be a singles star. I'm going now. There have been some teams like FTR, or they were known as the Revival. They're like Motor City Machine Guns. There are some teams where they have made a conscious choice to invest in, we are going to be a tag team. We are going to make ourselves a serious tag team who, like the thing I loved about the Revival or FTR is they were legitimately like, we're going to cut the ring in half. We're going to bring things back to that old school style of tag wrestling. and fans loved it. DIY, Ciampa and Gargano, they loved the way that team operated, where they were very much a operating as a tag team, and were trying to be a unit and go forth, and yet at the same time they were also classically broken up, and they did their singles run, and then they got back together, and they broke up again, and then it was just ridiculous. So I think it's almost like a cyclical problem. If you show future talent where you're investing, they're going to want to pursue the avenues where they can get the most bang for the buck, and there just isn't bang for the buck in tag, because they don't seem to want to invest in anyone.
Yeah.
I think that changes when you have two people that are like, look, because again, they're not investing right now, but what if there could be two guys who came up with some concept that just resonated with fans as a team, and could convince the creatives to let them kind of run wild? Not saying let's copy what the Road Warriors or Demolition were, but if they could come up with like an Obafemi sort of vibe, but for tag teams, I think they could run, because again, it's entertaining, and it's something different and something fans connect with. Yeah. And that's the problem, is fans don't seem to connect as much with teams anymore. They connect with individual stars. So anyways, I don't have a problem with them doing this, because I think this is all in the spirit of not only advancing Danhausen as a character, a comedy character, and this, everyone knows this win streakhausen that he's on is, like not something, it's not, I mean, who knows, maybe they'll go the route of trying to, build him up like Goldberg or something like that, go on some ridiculous tear. But, if Femi is the mystery partner, that's going to create a moment, because he's going to come out and the fans are going to get excited to see him beat the crap out of Miz and Kit Wilson, two characters who overwhelmingly people would love to see get powerbombed that way. So that's my thought. Like, I'm not as bothered by this, because I think there's value in having matches like this where it's more show and entertainment oriented. But I agree that it would be nice if they would invest that way as well. So I hear you. So I'm going to go basically the same as you in all points on this and in side bet. So because I do think Obafemi would be the logical choice. I can't think of another character that Danhausen's interacted with a lot that would, like if he had a lot of interaction with, let's say, Sami Zayn, which I know doesn't make sense because Sammy's involved with Trick Williams, but let's just say, like, I don't recall him running into the same character multiple times as someone who could be the guy who comes in and helps him,
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, now we move on from Danhausen to Io Sky and versus Asuka. I'm still trying to get caught up on Raw over the last 2 weeks, so I don't know what happened last week. I don't know what happened this week or tonight, because we're recording right now. But the build up to this has been Io has abandoned her family, and Asuka has tried to browbeat her into coming back to the family and being a part of her and what she wants to do as far as dominating women's wrestling in WWE. What are, I know you went first on the last one, but what are your thoughts on this one? Are you excited about this one? Or are you kind of like, now that Kairi Sane is gone, is there something lost here?
Oh, you mean the one women's match that we have on the roster, on the card? Yeah. So last week, Becky Lynch did the open challenge for the women's IC belt. Io Sky comes out, and unfortunately, Becky runs her down and also kind of told the truth that Io Sky has been just basically put into the spot of being Rhea Ripley's buddy, and that's kind of it. Like, she's her sidekick at this point, and it is and made Io kind of look like a bit of a schmuck. Now, Io got over on her in the match and all that, but then Asuka comes out and chumps her out, and thus we have this match.
Okay.
The problem I have here is partly what you've been saying, the fact that this whole thing was revolving around, almost like working for Kairi Sane's soul, because both Rhea and Io trying to basically tell her, like, you're in an abusive relationship. And Now that person's gone, so that element of it has just been erased. Now it's just Kyrie, Asuka. I mean, Io, Asuka. And honestly, this feels like this has been going on for way too long for me to even care about it anymore. Like they've been toying with this for a long ass time, and now I really don't care. And in a way, you've devalued Io after, like I said before, like when she first won the championship belt, I was really surprised how over she was with the fans.
Yeah.
And then she lost the belt, and then she's just been Rhea's sidekick. And now I really feel like they have devalued her a ton, to the point where it's like, I don't really, as much as skilled as both of these women are, I really don't care about this match all that much. Other than the fact that I'm pretty sure it'll be a pretty good match. But the story?
Yeah.
Who cares? Who really cares? Like, Asuka is Asuka and has been around for a long time, and honestly, she's kind of, I mean, I hate to say this too, like Asuka ain't been sniffing around the women's championship gold for an awfully long time. She's been in the tag division and has had injuries, and it's not like she can claim to be the most dominant woman on the roster. So you got her versus Io Sky, who's taken a huge ding in terms of prestige, fighting because, well, we've got to at least bring this thing to some sort of an end, even though the figure that was in the middle of this is now not with the company anymore. Like, as far as from a storyline standpoint, I don't give a hoot in hell about this, really. I mean, there's got,
so the winner is a hoot in hell. Okay,
might as well be.
Star rating?
I think star rating, I think, is going to be 3.75.
Seriously?
Yes, it's going to be a good match.
All right.
It like, if nothing else, like, these two are going to give you a good match.
Okay.
I think I in a way, I hope Io wins. I'm just going to go with Io winning because, honestly, I just want this to be done. And maybe Io moves on to something else. Maybe we get some sort of something happening of consequence with, like, a great wrestler. And then Asuka can kind of do her own thing. But I almost feel like it's just being set up for Asuka to continue this thing that's just like limping along to a meager end.
Okay.
How do you feel about it?
I too am going to go with Io. When I think about where do both characters go from here, if Asuka wins, what has she gained, and what is the long term from there? Io's not going to come over to her side. You know, Io sees Asuka for who she is. And to your point, you know, I think one of the reasons Asuka has been running with Kari is, I do think, you know, physically she cannot do what she had once done as a singles competitor, and I think some of this is, you know, by working tag, she's not having to work as much as, you know, and carry the load of a match. Now you know, she'll be in this with Io. So we'll see, you know, how she fares that way. But she really hasn't been in a lot of singles matches, you know, and I think, you know, there's a reason for that. So I think longevity wise, I think, you know, Io, and if you think about how this story would play out, you know, at some point, Kari, of course, the payoff was going to be that Kari finally figures out Asuka does not care for her, is not treating her well, and she turns on her and, you know, and you know, sees the light and comes to Io's side, and Io wins. And so I think, to your point, I think, you know, this match could serve as the blow off for what's been going on. Maybe Asuka fades into the background. Maybe she goes to SmackDown. I don't know, but I think Io, there's more mileage in Io, and I see, you know, her either pursuing Becky or pursuing Liv, you know, based on, you know, their history and that sort of thing. You know, I can see her going after, you know, Liv, you know, almost out of a sense of, you know, kind of what Liv said to Rhea as she walked out, you know, of Raw the other week. So I'm going to go with Io for this. I think it makes the most sense storyline wise, and it sets Io on a different course to pursue one of a number of things. I just don't see Asuka. If Asuka wins, it kind of goes back to that whole thing. Was it a few events back where I think it was like Nikki Bella, I think Nikki Bella was wrestling a match with Stephanie Vaquer, and we had convinced ourselves that Nikki was going to win because if she lost, like what? Okay, well now what? There's nothing. And Stephanie won, and Nikki kind of disappeared until she came back with Brie, and so I think the only direction you can go in is Io winning, to at least give her the boost and set her on a different course. But I do think I
love how you use the justification of us being wrong to somehow say, but we're going to be right this time.
This time we're going to be right.
I love how you spun that around. That is beautiful, and you made it so convincing. You had me believing it until I was like, wait a minute, we were wrong.
Hey, aren't you?
That as evidence. Son of a bitch, that's good that you I even bought it.
There you go. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I do think this will be a good match. I have questions about Asuka being able to have the kind of matches she used to have. I think Io's capable. Io has been fortunate to not, really suffer a lot of injury over the last couple of years. She does a lot of crazy acrobatic stuff, so I'm sure there's wear and tear going on there, but she can go. I'm just questioning how Asuka goes in a one-on-one match. And so,
fair.
And I think the quality might suffer because of that. So I'm going to go 3.5, playing it conservative. I almost did 3.25, but that feels too low. I think both of them can have a pretty good match. And so I'm going to go kind of 3.5 on that one.
Okay.
So that takes us to Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker, the master taking on the student, with the master being Seth, if that wasn't clear.
Because he was master for all of about a week and a half.
Yes. This is kind of the blow off to him being deposed as leader of the Vision when he ended up blowing his shoulder out, trying to do a Rob Van Dam coast to coast drop kick. Like, who thought that was a good idea for him to do? I don't know. Their back and forth last week, which I did get to see, was well done. I haven't seen, the action tonight to know what happened there, but for you've gone first for the last two. So this one's kind of interesting because, Seth lost at WrestleMania. And right now, Braun is in a place where he needs to get built up. Mm-hmm. It's his first match back from injury. Now, of course, they have an out with the Vision, so there could be chicanery where Seth gets screwed and he loses, and it's clear to everyone that, on his own, he could have beaten Breaker, but because of, interference and whatnot. So I'm kind of leaning toward Breaker winning this because the Rocket needs to get strapped back onto him, and he needs to rack up wins and momentum to, build up to a point of either challenging Reigns or whoever it is for the world championship. And I think, but he does it in a way. So I guess my side bet here is, I'm going to throw a side bet in that the Vision, cause Breaker to beat Seth. And I'm going to say the winner is going to be Braun Breaker. Star rating is going to be, I don't know. The thing with Braun is he's not a guy who's going to have, classic matches yet with people. I just don't see it. And I mean, Seth, Rollins is one of those guys that can draw that out of someone, but I just don't. This one, I'm going to go kind of what you did with the last match. I'm going to say 375. I think it could be really good because it's Rollins and him, and Rollins can maybe draw that out of him. But I'm not feeling like it's going to get up into that 4-star range because they may have a series of matches planned between these two, and you don't want to give away the farm in the first one. So I'm going to go 375 on that. What is your thought, sir?
I'm also going to go with Braun Breaker.
I convinced you.
Well, not a whole lot of convincing necessary. Like, what does this do for Braun Breaker if Seth wins? Like, you're going to give him a loss here, and then what? Like, you're trying to even though this guy has gotten knocked out of at least 2 spots where he probably should have been because of injury and injuries to Seth and all that, you're not just going to go, oh well, too bad, you've missed your shot, and now you're forevermore shunned to, jobber status. Like, you're not going to do that. The guy's got skills on the mic, he's got skills in the ring. Even if he's not, the second coming of Bret Hart, he can still work.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to build this guy up. The thing I question is, one, is Seth at a point in his career where he can still draw a good match out of somebody?
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who now has missed significant portions of time over the last couple of years with injuries, and has put a lot of hard miles on his body. Like, he is essentially a friggin' Ford Escape that's been, rented out at Enterprise for the last 5 years. Like, he has been ridden hard. So I don't know that this will be, or even if it should be, a highly rated match, because I think, honestly, the best thing for Braun Breaker in this match would literally be to come out here and to just lay waste to Seth Rollins. So, like, maybe Seth gets a little bit of a help spot at the beginning, and then Breaker just snaps and beats Rollins pillar to post in a way that just becomes uncomfortable, where you actually have the Vision coming down, not for shenanigans, but to actually start pulling Braun off of Breaker, to literally have Breaker to shift into a mode of being a rabid animal that you cannot control. You need to have someone like Breaker be dangerous, because here's the thing: he's not Obafemi. This is the thing, like, that is weird with Breaker, is that he looks, good God, he's carved out of friggin' stone, but he's not a giant guy.
Yeah.
You look at him in the ring and you're like, oh wow, he's actually just about the same height as all these other guys. He's not like physically imposing in the way of like looking down on somebody. It's not Ivan Drago and Rocky.
Sure.
He's about the same size. What makes him dangerous is he has the reflexes and all that. Like, okay, turn him into that pit bull. And do that. That to me is the most effective thing. And then have Seth have to climb the mountain and have to kind of get over the fact that not only did I get beat, but I got beat to a point where it's like, I'm now questioning whether or not I should still be in this business. And a match like that is not going to be 5 stars. That's going to be like 3 stars max, because essentially you're just watching somebody get the hell kicked out of them. And not in an artistic way. Like this, like I'm saying, this needs to be uncomfortable to the point where you're just like, okay, we've gone too far. I'm gonna say 3 stars.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. The United States Championship match, where the Lemon Peppa Steppa, Trick Williams, is defending his United States Championship versus Evil Sami Zayn. I guess you did 2 in a row. I can start by doing 2 in a row here. I think Trick is going to retain. I think I'm really not all that plussed about the 2 of them. Quite honestly, I'm going to give this. I did not like their match at WrestleMania, and I don't know what's going to be different here. So I'm going to give this 2 1/4 stars. I think it'll be above average, but not by a lot. I just don't feel the drama in it, and I don't know. Just the WrestleMania match just lacks some zip for me.
Well, because Trick is just getting started.
Yeah,
on the main roster. I don't think Trick is necessarily going to ever impress anybody as like, oh my gosh, he is mind-blowing in the ring. It seems like he's got some good skills on the mic.
Yep.
And he can work in the ring. And he's another guy who you just look at and you're like, this is he has an interesting look. He just looks like he is a cocky SOB. And between that and the way he carries himself and the entire packaging of him, It makes him a compelling character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like he's going to, dazzle you in the ring. And the other part of this is Sami Zayn has the same match every match.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason that fans have been turning on him is essentially it's the same match, and the underdog gimmick has worn thin.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they kind of had to make him a heel because people at this point are just sick of him.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Trick. I'm actually going to do you one better. I'll go 2.5 stars.
All right.
Because again, I don't see this being, if it's the same match, unless they bring out some other side of Trick, or they bring out some sort of other side of Sammy, which I just don't count on because I'm not sure what there is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it becoming that much better than kind of middle of the road.
Yeah. I would agree. All right. So I'm sorry, you're saying Trick Williams as well. Yep.
Yes. Whoop that Trick.
Whoop that Trick. Okay. So this brings us to the main event. We have the Tongan Death Grip wielding Jacob Fatu challenging the real world champion Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship. Sir, I have picked the last two first. Who are you going with?
So here is my case of why this might actually be the surprise of the night.
Okay.
Apparently, Roman has been canceled off of all of his Raw appearances in June.
Sure.
That seems really odd, even for Roman Reigns' schedule, like to all of a sudden wipe a month off.
Mm-hmm.
It almost makes me wonder if, and I know that I just advocated for something similar to this with Braun Breaker, if they're going to unleash Jacob and unleash a viciousness that will literally leave the tribal chief bloodied and battered to the point where he just disappears for a while. Like, would they do that and go that direction and put the belt on Jacob, but then where do you go from there? Like, who challenges this guy? It gives me pause, because otherwise I'm solidly in agreement with you. Like, yeah, they're gonna give Reigns the belt. He's gonna do his shtick, and we're gonna see the belt held hostage yet again for months on end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm not asking you to make my pick for me, but like, am I nuts for thinking that? Like, as just kind of a reality check.
If we use the common laws of professional wrestling, when one combatant in the match has consistently gotten one over on the other leading up to the match, then the laws of professional wrestling say the injured party is the one who will be victorious in said pay-per-view or PLE match.
I love how you're so smarmy and talking down to me like you invented these. It's
I invented this, and I have invented the phrase with the help of the man they call Matt. Back in the day when we were watching the pay-per-views throughout high school and our early college years, that certain people would lose because of the politics, is what we called it. The politics working against them. In this case, it is not a situation of politics. It is simple inverse momentum, in that you build up the challenger to be the threat, only to then have the champion somehow come out on top. Because the challenger looks very strong, and there are some circumstances, whether it be a clean victory or chicanery involving the Usos, that lead to Reigns winning. I do like your thinking, though, and I do agree that it would definitely be shocking and rattle the fan base and be like, whoa, what the hell was that, to have Fatu win. I think it opens up a lot of really cool possibilities. I kind of, one of the things I wish they had done, I don't know if you saw, did you ever, like, you didn't see the post show from WrestleMania, right?
No.
Okay. So in the post show, when Reigns came up to the panel and talked for a few minutes, they asked him about Obafemi because of what happened in the match with Brock. And Reigns, and this is I guess this is the struggle I have with Reigns' character, because yes, he's a babyface, but there's so much that he does that is very arrogant heel that I'm surprised more. And maybe this is why fans are, chanting for Fatu right now, is they're bought into him as the underdog, and that's what they want to root for. Last week, from the bit that I watched on YouTube of their interaction, like, there is something the crowd likes to there's something that appeals to the crowd when Reigns is getting the crap kicked out of him by someone like Jacob Fatu. And so, to your point, it would rock the boat if he were to win. But with Obafemi, Reigns made this comment about, because they asked him about Oba, and he's like, okay, that's great, you beat Brock. He's like, let's see how you're doing after this summer. Almost to say, like, you're okay, kid, you're going to cool off by the time we get to SummerSlam. So you talk to me when we get to the end of summer. That's basically what he said. Now, I kind of wish the next night on Raw, Oba came out and made a statement back to Reigns, which I know they probably didn't do because they're trying to build heat on Jacob, and that would just distract from it. But I really was hoping Oba would come out, make his proclamation and almost do one of these things like, and oh, by the way, Roman, keep my belt warm for the end of the summer, sort of thing. Like, I am like, because I think that would build interest. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Oba's coming for the world championship, and like almost like kind of a reverse arrogance where it's like, I'm going to let you hold on to it for this period of time. I'm not going to pursue you yet. I've got other things to do right now. Almost like both of them, I can see very easily with their vibe and bravado and the way they are, how they both could look at the other as the lesser and play it that way, even though they're not directly in a feud at this moment. And so I say that all to, say that, long term, I think the play is probably to get Reigns to wrestle to SummerSlam to face Obafemi for the world championship. And that may be where they crown Obafemi. I don't know. But that to me is where I think it's going. But what do you do with Jacob Fatu in the meantime? Well, if Jacob loses to Roman, do you now have him become part of the bloodline? There's a lot of crazy stories that you can kind of delve into where Jacob wins. Do the Usos come down and you think they're going to help Roman? They end up screwing Roman over and going with Jacob because they see a family member who is, back against the wall fighting, for everything. And Roman's just kind of the arrogant, tribal chief who's getting his his ass kicked, sort of situation. But I've seen us make picks like this in the past where we think these things will, in fact, that's what happened at WrestleMania. I thought Punk was going to turn heel against Roman, right? I thought Heyman was going to come down, or there was going to be something that happens where Punk turns heel and beats Roman, and then Roman pursues him. And what happened? Roman beat him. Yeah. That was it. Simple. So if we go with the simple route, I'm thinking Roman's going to win. And he's going to win in a way that makes Jacob look strong. But there could be storyline implications after that where maybe Jacob falls in line. I don't know. So that's my thinking, at least. But I don't know if that helps you in your pick.
No, it does, because honestly, I've got a serious friggin' streak of dislike for Roman Reigns. I'm one.
Go with your gut. Go with Jacob. Come on, man. You want to do it.
I would love to see that happen, if only just for Roman to disappear off television. He is not an interesting character. The whole I'm so great and I'm so wonderful. It's like, dude, you held the belt for how many years and you defended it like every other month. Don't tell me how great you are. Like, it just doesn't hold water. Like, you were like, and then looking in terms of the politics and all that, like, you were protected from on high. And not to mention, like, the 5 years of being pushed down everyone's throat where you had go away heat because you were Vince's special boy. Like, it's just, after a while, like, I just don't buy it. and the whole part-time shtick, and now how he's doing the whole, I run this place and I'll do that. Like, again, like, if you're not going to pull the trigger on him being like Rock's stooge for TKO, you're not going to fully buy into the whole corporate thing. Then what the hell are we doing here? Like, really, with this whole act? It's just tiresome for me, and I don't find his matches that great. Anyways, Roman's gonna win it, and it's gonna be like I'll give it 3 stars because Jacob will probably do a couple things that are like really good, and there'll be a few things that'll be interesting. But again, it'll be the match, if it's going to be any good, above average, is going to be because of the other person and not Roman.
Mm-hmm. And what's the star rating? Sorry.
3. And I actually feel like I'm being gracious there. Which to me feels antithetical to how it ought to be when you have a champion. The champion should be the one who is able to make other people. And it feels like in Reigns' case, he always needs somebody else to help him make him.
I agree.
And it's annoying to me. What's your pick, sir? You're going with Jacob, aren't you?
I'm going with Roman.
Yeah.
Let me see. Sorry, I'm just looking something up.
If you predict a star rating above 3, I'm going to need you to pee in a cup immediately and get drug tested.
I'm going to go with 3.75. I think this is going to be closer to 4 stars. I think. Hey, you can.
What was in your matcha tonight? What was in your matcha?
It was matcha and almond milk.
Did you get something from a dispensary put in there?
Not at all. Not at all. I think this is going to be a very good match. I'm going to go 3.75. I think Jacob and Roman are going to have it's not going to be at the level of Punk and Reigns, but I think it's going to be, a well sequenced, well put together match that is going to elevate Jacob. Even though Roman wins, it's going to elevate him, and it will have probably storyline implications for the next month or so. Or beyond that.
I think you got into Rob Van Dam's stash. That's what
you think I've been playing an RVD stash, huh?
Ask Van Dam, Dad.
Do you, sir, have any side bets? The only side bets we have together are that the mystery partner will be Obafemi.
Honestly, I give such a little crap about this event that I just don't even care for side bets right now.
I'm going to leave it as just Obafemi as the mystery partner. I'm also going to leave it that the Vision will help Breaker beat Seth. I did want to throw something in maybe about the Usos involving themselves in this match, but seeing how last week it was just Jacob and Roman, I'm wondering if they're doing something with Roman where he's going to just be more on his own, even though he has the Usos still with him. So I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to show some restraint, some self-control, some discipline, if you will, and just keep it at those 2. If I get them both, then it's 2 points for me. Actually, if you and I get the Obafemi thing right, it cancels itself out pretty much. But if I get the Vision part right, I am 1 step above you. So,
okay.
And I'm already I've already overtaken you. And we have many other, contests coming this year with some real and jabroni.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking forward to once again, being a 2-time champion. Just maybe not in fantasy football. It'll be in the
champion of the idiots. You,
your
mama is so proud.
The idiot prognostication award. So
your mama is just thinking all these years and the hopes of our and dreams of our eldest, and he's some schmuck on a podcast with a much bigger schmuck. Like,
oh my gosh. Well, sir, I know you have a early morning workout you got to get to, so we got to wrap this song up.
Yes,
so.
It is 12:12 a.m. here on the East Coast.
And you're watching Perspectives.
What do you got for another thing? A recommendation for our listeners and viewers, sir?
I have been listening to the musician Cam Cole.
Yes.
Does that name sound familiar?
He of Ted Lasso season 1 fame.
He
for
of
the
Ted
children.
Lasso. Yes. Very, very good, sir. Yes, he is a London-based singer-songwriter and street busker who gained international fame as a one-man band playing folk, Delta blues, grunge, and rock and roll. And I have been listening to his album I See, and that album for me has been very. It's been a pleasure to listen to. Just some raw, energetic blues and rock. I love how he is truly a one-man band, and yet he sounds like a guitar player with a band backing him. It's really incredible. He does foot drumming, plays with a slide, for some of the songs. But and the songs are just raw. They're edgy. Just have an edge to them that just feels like, okay, this is grungy. This is dirty. I like music like that where you can feel the soul of it. And so, and as Uncle Todd mentioned, Cam Cole was in Ted Lasso season 1. What was the episode again?
For the children.
For the children. For the children love the books. That's from Elf.
Yes.
But that's one of my favorite lines from that movie. But the children love the books.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I would highly recommend, if you've not listened to this album, do check it out. The album I See is from 2019, so it is not a most recent album, but it was. I was watching a clip from Ted Lasso when Cam Cole was on, and then I went and kind of sought out his most popular songs on Spotify, and this album came up, and so I've been listening to it. So do check it out when you have a moment, or if you're looking for something to rock out to. Get some good blues music. That song "Mama" is just oh my gosh, just boom. I mean, it's just right between the eyes. Very, very good blues song, and just absolutely enjoy listening to this guy perform. So Cam Cole, I See, Spotify. What do you got, sir?
I'm going to go with a blast of the past for me. George Carlin's 1996 comedy special, Back in Town. This was, to me, it's so George Carlin, has had a couple turning points in his career. He was a very, kind of straight kind of, nightclub, comic starting out, doing kind of observational humor and all that. And then he kind of really leaned into counterculture and became, grew his hair out and was much less that, suit wearing stand-up comic who could book in the Catskills and stuff like that back in the day when that was a thing. And kind of carried that through, even as he became kind of a bit of an elder statesman, and you got into shows like, what was it, Carlin on Campus, and then there was Carlin at Carnegie, and he wasn't quite as there was still that vague hint of the counterculture, even though he was aging. Back in Town for me was really the moment when we started getting angry George Carlin. Like, here was a guy who was, he'd had there'd been some fire there before. This was kind of the one where it was like, oh, he's turned another corner, and now there's a righteousness to his anger. But it was also, there's a detachment. And there was a great video I watched today where he kind of talked about where he came to this, where he's like, I just decided that I don't care. He's like, in the abstract, I just don't care about where the human race is going. He's like, kind of given up on the human race. I love and cherish people as I meet them. He's like, but once they start getting into groups and stuff like that, he's like, I don't want anything to do with them. He says, I've decided that I just don't care how this whole thing turns out. It's going to be what it's going to be. And he says, I'll just sit back and be entertained by it. And you can kind of see that in this show. And this is one where he talks, to me, it's the first like 4 segments, because I think of this also I saw the special on TV, but I had this on CD. So like the first 4 tracks to me are it's like side A of one of the most incredible comedy albums of all time. It's just boom, boom, boom. He is just both barrels the whole time. It is fan-friggin-tastic. Definitely one of my Mount Rushmore stand-up comics. So influential, so amazing, so funny, and yet also so articulate in what he was doing. You know, like you could tell this wasn't just off the cuff jokes. There was not an improvisation to it. This is these are well-crafted monologues that are delivered with like just precision. And I appreciate that on so many different angles and levels from George. So this is, I think it's one of his, if not the best special that he ever did. So I highly recommend Back in Town. I think I have the Tubi link. I tried to find it in other places, but it's not really in one coalesced piece. So I'd give it a shot here, or if you find it on DVD or something, you know, go ahead and grab it. It's a great investment. So yeah, check that out. Yeah. And that, ladies and gentlemen, now that we are creeping into the wee hours of the morning here on the East Coast, that is our show. Thank you for another Free Range Idiocy Friday. You can find us at freerangeidiocy.com. Download all our episodes there. You can subscribe to the Podbean app. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, many others. You can also find all of our video episodes on our YouTube channel. You can find us on social medias, Instagram and Facebook. Chug that seltzer. Chug it. At Free Range Idiocy. If you have thoughts, questions, concerns, or offers of bribery, send those to Tim at freerangeidiocy.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to hand the show over to the least idiotic member of the show, which, quite honestly, it's a narrow margin, but, you know, it's there. But not before I ask the second most important question in all of human history. The first, of course, being what is hip. The second being, what in the high holy frack did we learn this episode, sir?
We've learned the following, my friend.
Uh-huh.
We have learned that the man they call Tim can handle the matcha with the best of them. And it has been an absolute delight having that drink by my side during this recording session. If only to get Uncle Todd to crack some more jokes about my love of matcha.
You're going to be awake all night with like 2 tall 64-ounce matchas. It has caffeine in it, dude.
I'm good. I'm ready for bed. I am ready for bed.
About 3 a.m., you're going to crap yourself from all the freaking fiber and lawn clippings. Better make sure you put on the pens before you go to bed. Hope you don't have a blowout.
Fair enough.
Your wife is going to have you sleeping in a wheelbarrow in the garage.
Quite possibly. We've also learned that the releases over the last couple of weeks in WWE have revealed some harsh negotiations when it comes to the financial state of certain talent. We've also learned that creatively, unfortunately, some of this talent has been not leveraged and utilized as much as they potentially should have. And that is unfortunate that creative. I do put it at the feet of creative, and we have talked about this. We have learned that WWE creative, while it does produce some good moments from time to time, there is an inconsistency there, and it needs to be improved upon. We've also learned that there is also a responsibility on talent side, to not become complacent and to try to find ways to turn, especially those who are kind of coming up through the ranks, to distinguish themselves, differentiate themselves, and to create something new, and to leverage those early days to use, as the man they call Tim calls it, the blank canvas that they have, to find the gimmick that locks in with the people and can elevate them to gold, as the man they call Tim is familiar with. We've also let's hear it. Come on, I want to hear it. Come on.
You like that guy in Mick Foley's book when he talks about being at a wrestling school, and the guy had like 3 matches, but he's walking around like he's a veteran. Listen, kid, and he had wrestled in 3 gymnasiums around the greater Pittsburgh area. That's what you sound like right now, sir.
Thank you very much. We've also learned that Uncle Corny and Brian Last had some very prescient things to say on their show about the state of WWE.
You, the vocab word.
At 11:21, and you're watching Perspective.
Star for you today.
Thank you very much. Although the man they call Tim will not accept Vince as a fan, as more fan friendly. I do not accept that. He was a bitter man who just wanted to, unfortunately, abuse the talent, which is not far from. Well, anyways, I won't get into that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's late.
It is late. Nonetheless, we have also learned that Backlash is a subpar card. It is and we've also learned from our conversation that it is an event that is in a very difficult spot, coming so close or occurring so close to WrestleMania. It'd be good if WWE could give some space. Give some space.
It's an excuse. There's plenty of things you could do with it differently than this. This is a steaming pony loaf that has been shoved into a bag and lit on fire.
We have learned Uncle Todd has some very strong feelings about this card, and we'll probably hear more about them in our next episode when we adjudicate these results. We've also learned that Uncle Todd is rather upset by the tag match that is in this card. They would like to see, the tag champions and actual tag teams take part, not the entertainment comedy show that is Danhausen and potentially the ruler Obafemi vanquishing
or potentially like a woman, another woman's match would have been nice.
No, yep.
There's plenty of talent over there as well.
Uncle Todd advocating for the ladies to get their time.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. We've also learned that even though Uncle Todd in his gut wants to take Jacob Fatu, he has to go and stand behind Roman Reigns. He just has to. He has to.
The only way I'm standing behind Roman Reigns if I get to push him.
You want to give him the tongue and death grip too?
No, I'd like to. I don't need to push him off anything high. Just enough. Just a couple, 2 stairs.
Fair enough. With all that being said, as we like to close things out here on the range, be safe, be healthy, be kind, be good to one another. And please, if you're going to use the tongue and death grip, use it correctly and in the right situation. All that being said,
what is the right situation exactly?
Well, I don't know. Maybe
it's not like when you have to goozle someone, you just grab them around the neck and you squeeze.
Maybe 1 a.m. at a bar. I don't know. When you're surrounded, it might be the right time to use it. Who knows? I look to our great Tongan overlord Haku for the proper use of said move. So
that's a wise move right
there. So let me see. The range is closed for now. See ya. Thank you.
I like a Mussolini.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
Damn!
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all.
So say we all.
Uncle Todd is shut down for sweet Moses. Got some pipes on you over there. Jeez.
Is that loud? I'm sorry.
It's like the organ's playing over there.
You're wrong. Now get the hell out of here!